everyone, this is Tiffany with Raising House and Home, and today I'm going to share my family's recipe for jambalaya. Now this is a little different than probably what you're used to, and it may be called something else, I don't know, but we call it jambalaya. And I've had to make a few substitutions for my family's tastes and preferences, and also we're using what we have in the house. We're still in pandemic mode, even though things have started to open up. Some things are still difficult to find, and I do want to use up what I have in my fridge and my freezer so that I can replenish it with new items soon. One of the things that I am adding to this recipe is these little celery stalks. I have quite a few growing in my garden, and I didn't have any in the fridge, so I'm going to use these, which was really nice to go out to my own garden and get something that I have grown to use to eat. And so what I'll do is I'm going to start chopping everything up, and we're going to put it in the crock pot, and I'll show you as I do each ingredient and what it looks like when it's all in the pot, and I'll talk to you along the way. So please come along and let's make something yummy. So first on our agenda is the chicken. Now I'm not going to cut it up too small because this is going to be shredded once everything cooks. I'm going to shred it up. So I'm just going to cut them into halves. So these are the chicken breasts. So we're just going to cut them in half. And then I'll put them all in the pot and they will shred easier. Now, you'll see that I'm leaving this fat on. There's only a few pieces of fat. There you go. And the reason I'm doing that is because this recipe calls for chicken bouillon or chicken broth. And right now, I don't have any. So I'm just going to add water. And this fat piece right here, these little pieces of fat, and I think there may be a little bit of skin, that is going to cook with the water, and it will help give the flavor of chicken broth. So if you don't have chicken broth or chicken bouillon, don't just give up on the recipe, because you can add water, and as this is cooking, you will get broth from the chicken. And you can always make up for any flavor loss by adding some more garlic powder or adding more of your seasoning, so it will not taste watery. So I used to do that a long time ago when I was first starting out. If it said chicken broth and I didn't have it, then I would give up on the recipe, but you really don't need to. There's so many different ways that you can make up for that flavor loss. So we've got our chicken. Get rid of that plate. So now I'm going to put this in the crock pot, and then we'll get started on our kielbasa. I like to do all the meat first and then wash off the cutting board and then do my vegetables, which is kind of silly because it all goes in the same pot at the same time, but that's just how I do it. So I'm going to put the chicken in, and we'll get started on the kielbasa. Okay, here comes some more chicken. One more. Okay. So we've got our chicken in there, and that's a good base start. And now we're going to start with the kielbasa. Now sometimes I will boil the kielbasa to get some of the salty flavor out. Like I make sweet and sour kielbasa, and so when I do that, I usually will boil it and then I'll slice it up, and then I'll fry it in the pan and put sweet and sour sauce on it. But for this recipe, again, since I don't have the chicken bouillon or the chicken broth, this is going to help add flavor. I just won't be adding any more salt or any extra salt to the dish, because this is going to give it plenty of salt, and then also my seasoning. And we don't tend to eat too much salt here, so I'm really sensitive to having dishes be over salted. And there's so many things that we buy that we cook with that have added salt and sodium. So most of the time you don't need to add salt to your cooking. Especially, I'm going to be using a spaghetti sauce instead because it calls for tomatoes, and my kids aren't really fond of the chunky tomatoes. So I'm going to use some marinara sauce to get that same saucy feel without the chunks, and that also is carrying some sodium and salt. So we'll have lots of nice flavor, but no extra added salt. So I'm almost done cutting up this kielbasa, and this is my kids' favorite part. There. And what I like about this is I can stretch. Now I have just one of these kielbasas, and that we have a lot of people in the family. Normally this wouldn't be enough to feed us all, and that chicken wouldn't be enough to feed us all one meal. But if you put them all together, you get to stretch your budget. So I'm going to put this in the crock pot with our chicken, and we're going to continue to layer on the base ingredients. So there's our meat base. And I'm going to rinse off our cutting board and get to the vegetables. I'm doing this on my kitchen table, so if you notice the birthday tablecloth is because we had a birthday, and I figured it'd be easy cleanup because we're all done with the birthday party, and I'm just going to throw this away. So, and also the lighting over by my cupboard is pretty bad, so I thought maybe this would be a little bit better. So anyway, these are our celery. As you can see, they're not very big and thick because I haven't had time to grow them that much, but my kids don't eat them in the meal, so I'm just using it for flavor. So I will be using all of these leaves because you're going to get that great celery flavor, and then they will come out of the jambalaya when I serve it. So we're going to get some of the nutrients, and we're going to get some of the nutrients, and we're also going to get the flavor. So I'm just going to put those two stops. We're going to leave these big so that I can take them out easy. And they've all been washed, and my garden is completely organic. I do not put any chemicals in there. All right, so that's going to go in to the crock pot. And I will show you, I'm going to move this closer over here. See if I can do this with one hand. I need to be one of those fancy YouTubers with the cameraman. There. So that's looking good so far. I don't know how well you guys can see, but there's the meat layer, and now we have the celery in. So the next thing is going to be our onions. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that my kids do not like onions or any chunky vegetables. So we're going to peel this. So you can peel this. There. So these will be left big, as I usually do, so that those who don't like them can take them out. I do have one child that doesn't seem to mind onions, and I don't mind them. So I like to give them the option to take them out if they want. And I'm sorry, my knife is not that sharp. I definitely need to resharpen them. So they are going to stay this big while they're cooking. So there we go. So we'll throw those in. What I'm going to do is also throw in some pepper strips. This is cheaper when you buy them on sale than buying them fresh. So there, they are frozen. They have a little bit of crystals on them, but they're still good. And I'm going to put just a little bit more, mostly for the flavor. So now we're going to put that inside the crock pot. Come on, though, I gotta get out of there. All right. So there, all the vegetables are in. We can give it a little stir. We can give it a little stir now that they're all in. I'll make sure everything is incorporated. And obviously, your family might like onions, so you would want to mince them. And you could also make the celery smaller if you don't plan on taking it out. But this just works for my family. And I really believe in cooking for what works for you and for your family. So now we are going to pour in the water. And it's about 4 cups, but I'm going to kind of eyeball it because I still have to put in the marinara sauce. So I'm just going to put in about right to, here we can't see. So I put in about 2 cups so far. There may be more going in, but I'm going to put in this marinara sauce, and I'm going to say it quietly, but there are a few tomato chunks in there, but not that many. I like tomato chunks, so hopefully, hopefully nobody will notice. So I'm going to open this jar and we'll put some in. Okay, so we've got the jar open, and now I'm just going to kind of eyeball it because it doesn't need to be too tomatoey, but I want it to have a little bit of that sauce. So I've put about a quarter in. Maybe I'll put a little bit more. Maybe more of a third. All right, so we're going to stir this up and we're going to see what it looks like. And this is how I do a lot of my meals. I just kind of eyeball it, and I don't use recipes too often. I just kind of go with it. So we're just going to mix this up. And yes, I'm only using my knife to mix it up. But it does the job. And mustard wash. I'm all for making Mama's life a little bit easier, especially when we're so busy right now. Okay, so I think we're going to put a little bit more of the tomato sauce in, marinara sauce. Just a little bit, because, and I'll probably put more water in because it's not as soupy as I would like it to be. Now you can add shrimp to this if you'd like. I would suggest doing it at the end. I did add shrimp one time and it just vanished. So, and it made the sauce kind of mealy because all of the shrimp cooked down into the sauce. And I mean, it tasted okay and the kids still ate it, but definitely I would wait till the last few minutes of cooking to put the shrimp in and just make sure the shrimp is cooked before you serve it. But you don't want to cook it the whole time. It doesn't need as much time as all the other ingredients. So that looks a little bit more like it. I put in, I think I'm going to do all the water. Okay, so that was 4 cups of water. And I've got the chicken and the kielbasa. And those green things are the leaves from the celery, and that's going to taste really good. Okay, so now we're going to add some black pepper. Not much, because we're going to add a different Cajun seasoning. And I'm going to add a little bit of garlic because I like the Cajun seasoning that we have, but there's not quite enough garlic for our family. So I have a little bit of garlic powder. And then I have this Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. I have a huge jar of it. Before the pandemic, if you've seen my videos, I got this on clearance. I can't remember how much it was. It was maybe $1. And it's a huge, huge thing of spice. Let me see if I can show you if you haven't seen my other video about this. Okay, 32 ounces. And spices are so expensive. I grabbed that right away. I've used this for everything. All right, so I'm going to use about, let's see, about a quarter, no, about a 1/16 of a cup. This is an 1/8 of a cup. I'm doing about half. So I'm going to do about a 1/16 of a cup. And that's, I think, about a tablespoon. Don't quote me, but I think that's about a tablespoon. I just don't have my tablespoon available right now, so I'm making do. And as it cooks, when the meat isn't raw, I will test the sauce and just see if it needs just a little bit more of a kick. But I suspect that that's going to be enough. This is very strong. But if you like it really spicy, you may want to put in a full 2 tablespoons or about 1/8 of a cup. So we've got everything started, and I'm going to get this on high for the first hour, and then I'm going to bring it down to low to cook for the rest of the day, and we're going to put it over rice. So I will be back when it's all done, and I'll show you how much this, oh, it's so scrumptious. I can't wait to show you guys what it looks like when it's all done. It's beautiful and it tastes amazing. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes. So I'm all done with the jambalaya. It cooked all day, and it's getting kind of late in the evening. You can see that the sun is starting to set. So I want to show you what it looks like. So I made this rice, and I made this on the stove, not inside the crock pot. And there, I'm just going to put a little bit because I don't really like to have a whole lot of rice with this. Just enough to kind of get wet from the sauce. And so because it is kind of like a soup, I am going to put it like this in a little bowl. I'll show you guys. It's so good. Look at that. And it's got the shredded chicken and all the vegetables. This is my plate. I don't mind the vegetables. There. And I actually don't like a whole lot of kielbasa. I like the flavor, but I don't like to eat a lot of it, so I prefer the chicken. And again, you can add the shrimp to it if you want. I think that's a traditional gumbo. It has more of like the shrimp flavors. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. And then I just scoop the rice into the gumbo like a little bit at a time. That way it doesn't get too wet. I like it to have a little bit of flavor and consistency, not like mushy. And I almost forgot my cornbread. So I made a homemade cornbread to go with this, and that tastes really good too. So I'm gonna adjust my camera so you guys can see. So we have the cornbread and the plain rice with the gumbo, and I did have to add another about 1.5 tablespoons of my Cajun seasoning. Here, I'll show you guys. If you don't remember from the beginning, it is the Slap Your Mama Walker and Sons Cajun seasoning. It was a little bit light on flavor as far as like the spice. So again, use your judgment of what works best for your family and for your flavorings. We don't like it too spicy, but it definitely needed more than the tablespoon that I put in at first. So taste it and see what you like. And here it is. Super easy, really filling, and it's good for summer or for winter. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys are healthy and safe, and that your pandemic shut-in or time to stay home, stay-at-home orders is almost over or are lessening. And I thank you for coming and watching my videos and for all your comments. And I hope to see you guys back at my channel soon. If you haven't subscribed already, please click subscribe below, and you will get my weekly videos on things like food and grocery shopping, saving money, and all the things that are necessary for raising a house and home. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you soon. This is not easy to do when you're trying to do it with a knife. It just keeps falling off. I'll probably have to edit out almost all of that.